Hola chicos, es su profesor Ricardo Martins y vamos a empezar nuestra clase de conversación en nuestro centro cultural Las Californias.
Let's start with this, okay? Let's continue with our classes of conversation. Today I bring you a really good topic. Let's talk about conversation in another language. Why I put an imagine saying thank you in many languages? Because the most common word that we use to say to somebody when we are happy, for example, about something that somebody made for us, or when we want to give that person the idea that we are happy with they with that person, for example, with say thank you. Okay, thank you for everything, thank you. Okay, that's why I think would be really important to know how to say thank you in many languages. Because if we are going to travel around the world, maybe we will use this word in many places. It's real that Spanish and English are one of the most common languages that the people use around the world. That's why we learn English. But think about it. What do you think that is the most important thing about knowing a language? The most important thing about knowing a language is that you start to get involved with the culture of the country also. For example, if you start learning English, you will be up getting involved, getting into the culture of English persons or American person in United States. For example, if you start to communicate with the people in the same language, you start to make links with that persons. And what I say links, because if I speak the same language that you speak, you feel comfortable. You feel that you are sharing the same knowledge with me. That's why it's the most important thing that if you want to travel to a country, learn the language of the country to communicate. It's real that, for example, if you go to Norway, Norwegian language is so difficult. That's why the most of the people in Norway speak English to communicate. Because the foreigners, people that go there, maybe they don't know the Norwegian language or the Danish language. So they speak both. They speak English and they speak Norwegian. But I know that if you speak Norwegian, maybe you start learning Norwegian first. Then, if you want to move to Norway, maybe you will get closer with that person if you speak the same language because you are sharing the same culture. That's why our language is with a charge of culture, with a lot of culture inside. If you know how to speak in Spanish, but for example, if it gives you an advantage when you are coming from here from to Spain, if you share the same language with the other person. That's why the people, for example, from United States try to understand the Spanish and try to learn the Spanish to understand the Spanish traditions also. That's why it's so important to learn language. It's so important because you have a lot of knowledge inside the language, the way of speaking. You will feel that I am crazy talking about that the way of speaking is different in all the languages. That's real. For example, I know how to speak Italian, and I feel that it's a really romantic, metaphoric language because you speak everything with a metaphoric thing, meaning everything have a meaning. I remember an example. For example, they used, the Italians used to say good lucky to somebody, that a wolf have, that you are in the mouth of a wolf and the wolf have to be dead. That metaphor is so difficult for somebody that is learning the Italian language, because you feel that, whoa, that's, these people is so crazy, but they are common phrases used by many years by many people in the country, and they know as the culture that they use those strange phrases to say good lucky. You have a lot of phrases in English that are common to speak about uh, things of the culture of the country. That's why learning the language is the best way to know the people, to share the real tradition that they country have, that country have. For example, if you learn a language first, then for example, you want to move to United States and you learn how to speak English, you will be more close, you will be closer to the people you met, because those persons feel like you are equal of them. You will feel equal to the people speaking in the same language, and the people, so it's common that they start to showing careness for somebody that speak the same language, to showing themselves very funny, to share with you the real person, the real culture, the real traditions, the real things. That's why it's so important to try to learn the language when you are going to a country, because you will feel, no, if I speak English, that is the most common language, you will miss a lot of the culture of the country, because the people is used to communicate in their own language, in their own idioms. They used to use idioms, for example, in their language. And when I talk about idioms, I am not referring the word language, because language is a thing. Language is the group of words that we have for communicate, but idioms are phrases, common phrases that they use, that they have their own meaning there, for example, and they use as a routine in the daily life, for example. That's why learn the language and the idioms from the country will get you closer to the persons of the country. Also the pronunciation. If you start to work in your pronunciation, you will be you will be accepted, or more accepted in the culture, because the people will feel that you speak very well, for example. And the way of trying to correct your pronunciation is to look how they speak, or how they do the, for example, the things, okay, how they speak, how they pronounce. Watch the films, watch the cultural expositions, watch the manifestation of everything that they have, for example, the art of that country, okay, to learn the language. If you get closer to the language, you will be getting closer to the people. That's why it's so important to learn a language, to learn a new language, because we'll get you closer to that person in another country. That's why it's so important. Have a new language will get you involved in the new culture of those persons that you are discovering, for example, if you are getting closer to, and it will make you easy to share with them all your things if you talk in the same language, because they will have more trust in people that speak the same language that they use. Because if you speak, for example, a common language like the English, you will be getting closer to the culture. You will be maybe getting closer to Norwegian people, but you will feel in a group, for example, you will be in this situation because it's so common that you have this situation. You have a lot of friends in Norway, you're arriving to the to the Norwegian country, okay, and you perfectly communicate with the people in English, but there will be a time of a lot of group of people together that they will start speaking in the same language that they have, for example, Norwegian language, and you will feel apart and you will not understand what they will be speaking, because it's common that the people used to speak in the mother language. The procedure to speak in another language is so difficult, also in a part language. That's why it gives you a little effort when you are trying to express yourself in another language, that is not your language. That's why maybe speaking in another country in the common language like English, they will prefer to speak in the mother language. To speak with somebody in the mother language that they both have, will be the correctly way to arrive to the deep culture that a country have. Okay, if you, for example, arrive to United States and you make a perfection of your English, you try to pronounce really cool and well, all the days you practice to pronounce well, to pronounce the best way you can, and you start understanding the meaning of the things to practice, to speak, to express yourself, and to do everything, okay, you will reach to arrive to that deep culture that the country can provide to you. In the case of the United States, for example, if you arrive there and you start speaking and learning English in the way of being an English speaker, that will be perfect, because the people will accept you as an equal and will show you the deep culture that the country have to provide you. That's why I put a lot of words in another languages, because if you have more languages, you will feel that you have more cultures closer to you, because the knowledge of all the cultures is so important. Also, when you're listening to music, if you're listening to music in French, if you're listening to music in Italian, if you're listening to music in English, it's not the same. Different language provide you a lot of knowledge, a lot of different way of thinking, and that's why I love the word, because it has a really cool mix of culture, really cool mix of things, really cool mix of way to express, to think about in another. When you think about in another language, you are like in another movie, in another scene. You are out of the scene, you are in another place, okay. That's why I invite you to continue learning English, to make an effort to pronounce really cool, follow the videos, to follow the instructions here, to develop your language, to develop your English, to get those hold the knowledge that you can take it from these videos, you to practice in your house and get perfect your English. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for coming, and you will have to continue following the videos to continue learning. Thank you for practicing English, and thank you for coming to class. I have to say goodbye, and I wait for you in the next video. Thank you. Goodbye.